Ella will continue to let everyone in, but in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started this morning because this is only intended to be 30 minutes. As you all are aware, we do this an interview with one of our business owner clients once a month or every other month, depending on the semester. This semester, we actually are doing it every August, September, and October because of the holidays. And so it's called our Perspective series. The idea is just to get some insight from owners and different scenarios and different situations and talk about how, what they wish they would have known and what they what they expect from their advisors and that sort of thing. So with that, Holly, thank you for joining us today. We very much appreciate it. And Joe, I'll let you take it from here.
Good morning. Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Shelley.
Of course.
So, hi, Holly. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Where are you driving to?
So I'm sitting in my car outside my kids' new school. Today is their orientation, and I had a parent orientation that ended at just before this meeting started, and it's over at 11:30. So the timing is right for me to just sit here and talk to you and then come out.
I have a variety of things. Thank you, by the way, for making the time and making this happen this way. Do you feel well oriented?
Yes.
And that brings up probably a subject that I could talk about first. Often when I talk to entrepreneurs, the idea of a balanced life or balancing their life, everybody kind of giggles and they say, well, there is no balance. There's just every day I do the best I can. So there's no balance every day and there's no balance every week. But by the end of the year, there's some sort of balance. Do you feel about the same way?
Yeah, generally.
How old is your family?
So I am a single mom and also run a company, and my children are twins and they are going into 5th grade, so they're 10.
So 10-year-old twins. That is just way cool. And lots going on, right?
Yes, always a lot going on. So I have, support people, but for like the first day of school, I make sure I'm there.
Very much so. Well, thanks for making time for us and finding that striking balance too. And we could probably do, Miss Shelley, a whole half an hour with just entrepreneurs one day about the fallacy of balance and the reality of balance. But right now, your kids know that mom came to work, came before work to school, and went met with the teachers and did it all. So that's cool.
Yep. Yeah.
So what kind of company do you have, and are you the first or second generation?
So my primary company is called Court Direct Mortgage, and we're a commercial real estate finance company. So we do mortgages on commercial properties, and we either turn them into bonds or we now run a debt fund. And so I create investments for investors that are backed by mortgages.
And then
we're vertically integrated, so we originate them and we service them and do the whole thing. And I'm the second generation. The mortgage company was built on the back of a fixed income broker dealer called J.W. Korth & Company that my dad started in 1982. And when I was a little girl, every time I had a day off of work, I wanted to go to work with my dad. And I had always wanted to work with my dad. And so I began working with my dad in earnest in my early 30s after I'd gone off and had a couple of other jobs. And we were kicking around looking for, I was looking for, some other ways to grow the business and to add other business lines. And we started the mortgage company in late 2016. And at this point, I bought out the majority of the stock from my dad, and he's mostly retired. He's the chairman. I talk about big issues with him, but he's not in the day-to-day business.
And then
he very much resists the title retired. So
so let's talk about that in just a minute. But scale and magnitude, in the last 2 years, you had investors place about how much money with you that you redeployed?
So in the last couple of years, it's been about 200 million. We manage about 500 million for investors that are typically institutional or banks.
Sure. So then in working with Dad, did you go in and you were the head of the company when you started, or did you work your way up? How did that all start?
No, so I actually worked my way up. You know, I had to get my securities licenses, but actually for the first couple of years, I have a background in software engineering. And so I was writing like internal application software to help the company run, and we were buying up small financial advisory teams. And so we were building something from scratch that let them submit tickets to our traders. And so I worked a lot on that, and then, you know, was working on administration and management of the company. And then I got my securities licenses and started doing some trading and stuff, but really was looking for a way to grow the firm. And slowly took over more and more responsibilities. I mean, I've worked with him it was 2006, so it's been 17 years. And I guess in 2018, I got to be president of the mortgage company. And so that's what, 5 years ago. So it took me 12 or 15 years to get a decent title. I finally just got CEO. Yeah, so it was by no means just easily handing over the reins, but me slowly but surely, you know, adding responsibilities, and him deciding to slow down and spend more time with my mom, and them to travel a little more and things like that. I actually think COVID helped accelerate my takeover, honestly, because I wanted, you know, the team to still be in the office. He was, you know, kind of afraid to go to the office. He didn't want to get my mom sick, and it sort of led to him being out of the day-to-day more, and me taking over more. And we had tremendous growth during that period too, because interest rates were low, so we were lending a ton of money, and the business really took off. So it was sort of a slow transition.
And then your compensation was originally, I imagine, some sort of a salary. How fast does it grow, and when does it shift to ownership or profit?
So I was always on a salary that started low, and as the company grew, you know, we upped my salary. I've been in charge of my own salary for the last 6 or 7 years, I guess. When we had some lean years, I was allowed to borrow from the company and have a due from partners. So he gave me some equity as compensation a couple of times, as one partner left, as some other things happened. So I got some equity, so I would get to participate in the profits when we were just a partnership. But then the mortgage company is a corporation, so that changed, and we pushed more return into salary. And now I get options and salary, and then I can give myself bonuses also when I would like to. So we don't have a compensation committee. So we're not that size yet. So just so everyone
You're a committee of one.
Yes, a committee of one. But we do have a board of directors, and we're a publicly reporting company. So my investors see our compensation, so I try to keep it reasonable. Wait, I just lost my train of thought. What I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, so my compensation's public, so it doesn't get too crazy. Oh, I was gonna say, so everyone understands the scope of the business. I have about 25 employees.
Cool. And then as you guys were, you had advisors, was your dad the kind of guy who, as he was starting the company and first running it, found a CPA firm, a law firm, a business consultant, etc., or did he figure it out all himself? How did that all work before you started?
So before I started, he had used an outside law firm for a lot of stuff. And then my dad had a lot of growth at the beginning of his career, and then he had like a lull period before I came in. So he was doing a lot of things himself. Didn't really use outside financial advisors. because, you know, it was a securities-based business, so he felt like he could do that himself. And he did use a tax attorney for a lot of things and a contract attorney. But and the tax attorney did like the taxes, and he had an internal accountant on staff. So
Sure. And then when you came on board, at what point did you realize that you needed to seek some other advisors?
so when our tax bill started to get high, I thought that you know, I was like, other people don't, you know, aren't just paying taxes, and we need to have some more strategies. My dad was a little like, you can spend way too much money on attorneys if you, it's easy to overspend on attorneys and advisors. That was sort of his perspective, and they really have to be bringing value to the table in order to make it worthwhile. So, you know, when I started to look for some assistance, first of all, I got so busy that there's only so many things I can do, and I can't be expert at everything. Although, you know, we're really sharp, we're not experts at all things. And so finding the right team that could help in a variety of areas, that could also refer us to people who could help more, seemed to be, at the point that we got to some scale, like the most efficient route.
And was your dad open to that idea, or was he still reluctant, but you were the head and you were allowed to go figure it out?
Yeah, he was still reluctant, but it was my call. So
And then when we talk about those, that was for the company and its profits, and therefore its taxation, and maybe somewhat to your taxation. But did your dad do a lot of what I will call income tax planning for now, as well as estate planning and asset protection for the future?
So my father, on a personal level, I think has trouble dealing with his own mortality. And so he's always been resistant to estate planning. He finds trust to be overcomplicated. And he also is sort of the opinion, this old school opinion, like we have to pay, you know, everyone to participate and pay taxes, which certainly we do, but I think that we can mitigate them because we have tools at our disposal to do that. So he's been resistant to all of that planning, and I don't think has it, you know, as buttoned up as I would like. So, which you and I have talked about, but
Yes, of course. So you ended up reaching for not only corporate tax planning, but also personal income tax planning. But then you, as the daughter, are doing estate planning before your dad is doing estate planning for his estate.
very ironic, right? But I don't want to end up in, you know, I want to have all of that stuff organized. I want to have a partner that, you know, partly for me, because I have to make so many decisions constantly. I really wanted to, because we talked to some other kind of estate and tax planners before, and they sort of just presented a whole bunch of options. You could do it this way, you could do this, you could do this. And I was like, I need somebody to really look at our picture and tell us what we should do, right? I'm aware that there's all these different things, but I need someone to actually make recommendations and help me make those decisions, so that I don't have to spend so much time doing all this research. Like, tell me what's going to fit my overall picture. And so that's really important to me, to have that stuff decided, get it mostly buttoned up, and then just update it from time to time.
So you have spent some time looking at different advisors, and they were posing to you a variety of ways to do things, but you didn't feel, from what I just heard, that A, whatever they were posing to you was based on really understanding you, and B, they weren't making a recommendation, it was a list.
Basically, yes.
And how, with those advisors, what did you feel was your job? If those advisors that were saying, here's all the things you can do, did you feel it was laid in your lap to figure out what to do? Were they willing to partner with you on it? Were they going to make a recommendation? What did you feel was happening?
I felt like they were putting it in my lap to give them the direction of which way I wanted to go, and then they would take it and implement it. But I didn't feel that I was educated enough in those areas. Yes, I could go spend a month educating myself in all the different avenues, you know, and then maybe they'd have some feedback. Well, I don't recommend that, but they really wanted me to be the lead on what I wanted to do. And that's not my area of expertise. And so I wanted somebody who was going to help me determine the best path.
So then when you entered planning, let's say with us, and there was a longer process of gathering data and education. Well, first, let's talk about that. With the advisors that you had seen before, did you feel that you'd give them all the data, but they didn't understand it? Or did they not ask for all the data? Why did you feel like they didn't understand you or your situation?
So some of them asked for the exhaustive list. However, I just didn't feel like they were giving as much, that they had planned to give as much determination and really help implement a plan. Like, you have a very fulsome methodology that you guys go through that I appreciate.
So you appreciated that there was the big ask, the painful ask, but also there was going to be some idea that that was going to be analyzed. You felt like it was understood. And then there was conversations with you about what you and what your dad really wanted. And you had some unique circumstances about ownership, dad's control, yours, his not willing to do planning, you're willing to do planning. So somebody got to see the stuff, understand it, and then understand you.
Yes.
Cool. And so let's say we check that box. You move from, some people didn't really ask for enough to understand you. Some didn't spend enough time to tell you what they saw and didn't see. And some didn't spend enough time with you to understand your unique circumstance. So let's say we dismiss all of those. If all that happened, then there was still an education that had to happen because there were still choices, right? So how is it different in what we did on that education? Some, you said before, you were given different options. You could do A, B, C, D, or some mixture. And that was frustrating to you because then you would have to do the research. But you still had to learn with us. So what was that difference? Did you feel like you learned?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it. Well, first of all, the book that you make is very educational, right? It takes you through, if you do this alternative, this is what's going to happen to your tax bill, and this is what's going to happen here. So I felt it wasn't just, you know, people can tell me about a CLAT and a, you know, this kind of insurance and that kind. But to have it sort of presented, if you take this path, this will be your outcome, I think is a better way to present it. And we did spend a lot of time, you guys spent a lot of time educating me and understanding that, yes, I want charitable giving to definitely be part of, you know, my long-term plan, or when I sell my company, I want to have a structure that does that. That's important to me. That might not be important to everybody, right? So that guided, you know, some of the solutions that you presented.
So for those that are on the call that are certified wealth planning advisors with us, you know this, the rest. Holly's referring to the book, and not a book that we send ahead to say who we are, what we do, but a book that's a review book and a design book. So all in one, the first stage, Holly got a review of all of her assets. So not only a balance sheet, but analysis of every entity, an analysis of every document, analysis of the last 3 years of tax returns. And at the end of that, a set of observations. Here are areas of concern with no plan for ideas yet. So nothing as far as ideas to solve for it. So that first stage of review that Holly compensated for had a deep dive into her stuff, and then a deep dive into Holly, where she spent 4 hours discussing what she believed in certain different areas and expanding her mind on possibilities. And then a list of that result was a list of, here are observations. Then there was a design phase where Holly got a design book that basically attached to the back of the review of what the data was, which were a set of concepts that said, here are the different strategies we're recommending. Overall, if you don't do this, here's the result. Now, 2 years out, 10 years out. If you do this, here's the financial result. Here's the asset protection result. Here's the income tax result. Here's the estate planning result, etc. And here's some areas that if you don't fix that are messy, IRS-wise, etc., partner-wise, and then each strategy had a breakdown of what it was that explained that strategy in a picture, in a set of words, and then numbers if needed. And then as Holly enjoyed, because Holly, you enjoy numbers, they were integrated. So all the cash flows for the strategies were integrated together over that same period of time. And then we educated. Holly, you did not say yes to the first design, though. We redesigned a bit, did we not?
Yeah, we did.
And why was the first design not it? And what was it that keyed you to say, oh, there might be other things, or yeah, that's true, but more of this and less of that? What caused that?
I can't remember.
Did it feel good to redesign, or was it frustrating?
Well, I came in and met with you. So just so everyone knows, I live in Florida. I'm not local, but I felt like, and we've done several Zoom meetings, but I felt like it was worthwhile to come meet your team in person, which you had invited me to do. And I think it was after that initial meeting that, I said, I think some of it had to do with timing of some of the things and what the timeline would be, and some of the charitable giving things. And then I had some changes in like the business and things that needed to be, taken into account. So
Sure. So, of course, for the audience, Holly has an active running business. She's an active single mom. She definitely interacts with her mom and dad. And there are moments in the business where it demands a ton more of her time. And other times it's only waking up at 5 a.m. and going to bed at midnight on a slow day. So some of our meetings had to push back because there were the emergencies of the business. There were a couple of things that happened in the business that, Holly, had you not paid attention to, could have been catastrophic. So you had to focus.
yes.
And then when that leveled out, we were able to come up again. From my memory, for the audience, Holly really did enjoy, yes, those are all strategies. Can I have, of the big strategies, can I have more of that and less of this? And I like that strategy. You talked about one other thing. Can I see that option? And how, Holly, you really appreciated the integrated cash flows. You enjoyed seeing how the numbers work together.
Yes, definitely. I think it's important, and then it also shows the value of, because implementing these things is not inexpensive, and it shows the value of going through the implementation and the reward that I'll get down the line for putting the stuff into place.
And then if I went down the path, if you didn't mind, during some part of the planning, there were advisors that you decided you were not going to work with anymore, and some of the advisors you would. What was that like, and how did you address it?
Well, I'm pretty direct. So I had an advisor who showed me some plans that I wasn't a fan of the risk profile, and there was a couple of different suggestions that were of a risk profile that I was not tolerant of, and so I told him that I didn't want to work with him, and I just called him up and told him.
Very much so. So there was a member of the planning team, this group that ended up getting together, let's say 3 different firms. And one of those firms, in presenting some options that they were suggesting to be part of the plan, they were not necessarily part of an overall design, but the risk profile of those options felt wrong to you.
Yes.
And then you ended up reviewing some of those options with your brother as well, correct?
Actually, I had asked for diligence materials and I wasn't satisfied with the diligence materials. So I'd only talked high level because I wanted to do the diligence for my brother. And it was then that I realized that I wasn't comfortable with those suggestions.
And you're in a business where diligence, you understand that concept. So diligence to you is what? What is diligence?
So diligence is reading organizational, looking under the covers of what the investment is, looking at the organizational documents. These were like investing in entities. And so I wanted to see track record, organizational documents, who the leaders were, historic cash flows, documentation of previous, payments to investors and things like that. I also wanted to know, what if this company goes away? What if this plan doesn't work? Is there audit support and some kind of evidence of those things? And it just wasn't sufficient to my standards.
So then you can all imagine on the call, the team, let's say there were 3 different firms. One of the firms have now presented something. Holly's asking for diligence, not getting it, not satisfied. And now Holly's making a decision to fire a member of the team in one of the disciplines, but then ask the rest of the team to continue to move forward, and then how to do that. So, and Holly, how have you found it after one of those team members was out?
It's been fine. I mean, I don't know how awkward it was for the remaining team. But everybody was very professional about moving forward without that one member. And I've been, completely satisfied. I feel like I've been brought into the fold of the remaining team a little more. And I like that, to have that, more direct, relationship. So I think the outcome has been great so far.
And that team member who's no longer part of that team was given 3 rounds of trying to make it right, and was was very invested in this option, this thing or these set of things. It was very committed to do this or don't do this, and wasn't forthcoming in the plan, had actually done it without the team knowing it. So that made it hard too, because as they sought verification for the balance of the team had to regroup to say, okay, what are you talking about? Let's get on a group call together, which didn't really work. So Holly,
Yeah.
what are 2 things that you wish you knew 10 years ago about this level of planning that you know now?
Well, it would have been nice to have met you 10 years ago and gotten this done earlier.
Thank you. You too, love.
I honestly didn't know that different kinds of trust had different levels of protection, and the revocable versus irrevocable, and what happens. And I just thought that I needed to start a trust and have one, and then that would protect me if I got hit by a bus and my kids. And so knowing some of those things earlier would have been helpful. So I've gotten a great education in the last year. So,
well, Holly, I know that you just came out of your kid's school for your parent orientation. You made time for this out in your car. Thank you very much for that. I think we should seriously consider a balance conversation. I know it's been done quite a few times, but balance from an executive owner position, considering young family, et cetera, is a little bit different than balance of what I will call the rest of the world that might have a job or might have their own solar business. You're very dedicated to your team. So maybe we do that one day, Shelley, together.
I think that would be happy to.
Thank you, Holly. Shelley and Ella, thank you for putting this together. I mean, the entire audience, thank you guys. Holly, thank you for that. I don't see any hands up for questions. So absent that, Shelley, unless anybody wanted to raise their hand momentarily. Absent that, Holly, I really appreciate you. Have a very safe day.
Okay, thanks, you too. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.